Welcome back. I'm Amelia Goodman with Slalom's Business Advisory Services team. Today, we're going to be talking about the employee experience. Are your teams burning too hot? I would love to turn our experience. We've been talking a bit about leaders to that employee experience. And as you know, we've been reading and seeing a ton in the news. And one of the first things that pretty much came out was, as you've all shared, we've done this and we've proven it. We can work remotely, but we've also shown that our productivity went up by some measures up to 30% more. So what I'm wondering about do we think our teams are burning too hot? Are we worried about burnout? Like what are we doing and what can companies be doing in the future?
I'm absolutely worried about burnout, fatigue. And I think the nice thing of working from home is that we have the flexibility at the same time. I don't know about you, but I think for many of us, right, the lines have blurred between working hours, life, all of that. And so I do think there is just greater fatigue, right? And then, of course, being in this prolonged state of uncertainty has contributed to the fatigue, to the burnout. I think also I read an article recently in the New York Times that talked about why we're all fatigued. And the article talked a lot about how we're missing the excitement, the element of surprise in our lives, and how, even something as simple as going out to dinner with friends or travel, there was this excitement and this element of surprise that really, is positive for our outlook and our mindset. And we're kind of missing that today. And so this is something that my team and I've spoken about, I've spoken with the executive committee about, is that element of surprise. Like, how do we introduce surprise into the workplace and into how we operate? And whether it's like the unexpected recognition or, surprise in terms of, introducing, something new. I do think it's important to put focus on it, but that article was really resonated with me in terms of how we're missing that and the impact that excitement and a nice surprise can have on individuals and their outlook.
Dave, I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
I'll think about that blur. I think it can be healthy as long as boundaries are still there, right? So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the blur between work and life, and as long as you've still carved out appropriate time for each one. And that's probably one of the harder things to do now because it's happening in your house or it's happening in your room or you're using a bedroom now to turn into your office and all those things. So there's kind of a fundamental piece there that probably people need to re-examine. And I hope we're re-examining this often. Like, what are my boundaries for work? And how do I work best? When do I interact with my teammates best? And having that honest dialogue with yourself first, and then maybe with those around you, it's an important part of this. Lucy, I love that focus on well-being. If we find out a year or 2 years from now or 5 years from now that this has resulted in significantly more depression or it's increasing rates of suicide, I would hope we are smart enough as an organization that we can look at that and understand and change the ways that we work. So this idea that there would be any kind of absolutes in what we have, it's got to be responsive. So how do we equip our leaders with insights around that? Not creepy data. So let me be clear. There's a lot of data available in the world about how people work together. I don't really want us to get into, we could go into all kinds of ways to find out how people work. I hope we always have a human dialogue with each other about when we're working best. So when I think about that, how do we gain those insights? How do we understand and help elucidate that for individuals to understand when they're working their best? That's what I want to offer up. I think the idea of somehow, digitally probing the edges of when you are your best and that kind of stuff, that's a slippery slope. And I hope we stay on the right side of that. And I have every confidence that we will as an organization. We have to. I hope other organizations do that too. So when I think about this, in my mind, it comes down to we've got interactions and we have connections, right? And I think a lot of people have interactions during the course of your day, whether they're digital or whether they're analog and physical and real world, all that kind of stuff, but they don't always result in a connection. And I hope that we are constantly looking for when are those connections needed? When are those connections equal? When are they greater than others? And for me, that's really think about that connection currency around this. Not everyone, if we had $1 for a great connection moment, Amelia, maybe you and I are having a great conversation. We decided to loop Lucy in. Oh, this got even better. And there was a wahoo moment. That was worth $1 of connection currency. then us doing this over a chat might only be 10 cents worth of connection currency in that one. So thinking about that fidelity and when it's most and when it's best and when it comes together, you might want the timeliness. And maybe the chat was a right way to do that because it was asynchronous and we needed it to be delayed, and that's okay. So thinking about how you're spending that connection currency, I hope we're all doing that. And I know for a fact, I am way more conscious of it in my own personal life. And I'm having that conversation with my family and with Michelle every day and with Natalie when we're working on Hab Lab things together. So I hope we're all doing that very often.
I think there's so much to learn here, and I'm excited to continue to see how we continue to evolve as we work together in this. As I think about the employee experience, Lucy, one of the things you brought up earlier is the work that we've done to support our teams in wellness. And we have done more than I've ever known in this last 18 months, my 8 years of being with Slalom. And I'm curious, what are you most proud of in our wellness journey as a company?
Yeah, so, I'm proud of a lot, Amalia, yet at the same time, I feel like we're not doing enough. And maybe that's kind of me being self-critical, but I do appreciate that as a company, right? For us, well-being is not a moment in time thing, but really, really integral to our way of being as a company. And again, being people first. And as you know, we talked about well-being holistically, right? Emotional, mental, physical, social, financial. And I'm proud of the investments we've made in holistic well-being, everything from dialing up our benefits like our employee assistance program offering to launching, family backup care, to taking a personalized approach to well-being by offering, dollars for individuals to kind of decide on, what's important to them from a well-being standpoint, right? To the me days, the wellness days, to financial workshops. I mean, we've done a lot. At the same time, when I look at the ethos survey that we conducted recently, right, is we look at survey data a lot. And of all the categories, health and well-being is the one area that was probably the lowest scoring. It wasn't super low, but it was the lowest scoring across all of the dimensions. So I think about continuously, like, what can we continue to do to invest in our people's, well-being, again, emotional, mental, physical, social, and financial. So anyways, I feel like, yes, I'm proud that there's always more to be done.
Absolutely more to be done. It did do some things that did surprise and delight. Like, the financial dollars are what we call the Thrive accounts in the Me Days. And those are great opportunities of doing that sparking of joy and use those fun moments as well.
Right. The element of surprise that we spoke about earlier. Absolutely. So we need to do more of that. Yes.
Well, I love it. Love it. And my favorites were the Thrive accounts and Me Days. And I'm Dave. I'm curious, what was your favorite?
Me Days, I think, is probably the most impactful, right? Any gift of time for people in my mind is always the most important. And I encourage folks, please use that for a meaningful connection with folks around you, with folks that are going to inspire and motivate you, folks that are going to excite and delight you in your own life. So I think the Me Days were definitely there. I will echo on with, as Lucy was talking about, the use of survey data and, the insights that we're getting on this. Agreed. We need to do more, and we need to continue to keep tabs on how folks are feeling, how folks are changing in their own work-life balance, their own behavior changes, their own right ways of working around this. And I hope that's a permanent change. That's not a just because of the pandemic kind of change. That should be an always-on change. I also think about the idea of these moments of conversation about the way we work and about the way we want to live. I hope that never goes away. I hope that is a permanent part of a culture change that we are now committed to as a company. Again, I think they were happening. It's just they're formal now. They have to happen. They're there. And I think a permanent part of this change. So I guess if I had to pick something that I'm most excited about is, Me Days are great, but it's also the permanent culture change that I think this is kind of instilling around this.
Dave, I'm with you. For me, the highlight was seeing how our employee resource groups came together. And to your point, like how we were able to have the meaningful conversations. And I love as a company that we can talk about mental health, the importance of mental health and well-being, and there's no stigma assigned to that. And so I think over the past year and a half, like I really, really have appreciated how our employee resource groups have come together to really encourage conversation, connection, community in these hard times, and to really send the message that we're all in this together. And that I think has been a highlight for me.
Thank you for joining us. Next, we're going to discuss reinventing work. We look forward to continuing the conversation.